With this AI agent, you can automatically post to Facebook with text posts, image posts, or even using Google Drive links to the images, and have the AI agent draft a post for you that allows you to review that draft, make suggestions and edits, and it gives you some suggestions on what you should be able to do, all being able to post directly to your Facebook page in no time flat. Okay, and let's see how this workflow actually works in actions. Let's come over to Slack real quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag over here an image I've got. It's just a picture of me with my green screen. We're going to do a post. Please make a Facebook post about how awesome it is to record all my content on Saturday and leave the rest of the week open for other work. I'm going to go ahead and send that. And what it's going to do is it has three options that it can go down. It can either see that it's an image post. I can upload a Google Drive link to an image that I have, or because it's Facebook, I can do just text posts. So it's going to see that I have an image post. It's going to upload that image to Facebook. It's then going to draft a post for me and then give me some suggestions on things that it might be able to improve in the draft as well. So here we go. We have our draft. The Facebook draft has arrived. There's nothing like locking in all my content creation on Saturday and freeing up the entire week for deep work, meetings, and actual living. Batching content means I'm fully present when I'm creating and then completely unattached to it the rest of the week. It's a game changer for focus and productivity. If you haven't tried it, carve out a solid block for content and see how much more manageable your schedule suddenly feels. Like that's an all right post. Maybe it's got me some suggestions here. This draft does a strong job of communicating the compelling productivity hack with a relatable conversational tone. Phrasing actually living adds a human touch that resonates, sure. However, it could benefit from a sharper hook at the start, something to immediately arrest attention in the busy Facebook feed, sure. It says it needs some polish, thinks it's not quite ready to go. So let's go ahead and say, go ahead and add a hook, sure. Oh, yeah, go ahead and take its suggestion, sure, sounds good. So what it's now going to do, it's going to run through that whole process again, except this time it's not going to upload the image. We've already done that part. It's now going to redraft the post. It's going to send it back to me for my approval, and it's not going to post it until I give it permission to. So here we go. Stop stretching yourself thin all week. There's a smarter way to handle content creation. I record all my stuff. Batching sounds good. Perfect. Okay, this looks good. It says it's ready to post. Wonderful. Go ahead and post it. Now, while it's going ahead and posting it, let me go ahead and pull up my Facebook account, and that'll show you that it's actually about to post this thing. So I come over to my page, and let's see, has it done it yet? Not yet. That's a reel I did, 2 hours ago, it looks like. Go ahead and refresh. Refresh again. There we go. Stop stretching yourself thin all week. There's a smarter way to handle content creation. That's exactly what I posted. There's my picture. Works beautifully, right? Wonderful. So as you can see, this bot is able to take a picture. It's able to give you a draft. It's able to iterate on the draft and then actually post it to Facebook. As always, you can get today's workflow by going to our free school community where we keep all of our past workflows, training videos, tools, and templates. You can also join hundreds of AI enthusiasts all looking to grow their businesses with AI-powered automations. And make sure to join us in our advanced community where we have over 20 hours of additional AI and N8N training courses to help you learn how to ride this AI wave, as well as a group of committed AI-focused business owners all looking to help each other grow and scale. All right, let's go ahead and go into the bot. I'm going to show you kind of how the whole thing works step by step. Like I said, it's able to do images. It's able to take Google Drive links. So if you didn't have your image off of a phone or a downloadable form, but it was in your Google Drive, just take a link. It'll go through this process over here instead, or you can do just text. And so those are our three options for this bot. And let me get in here and show you how it works. All right, now if you're familiar with my other bots, this should look familiar here, this kind of standard intro. It's a little bit different, and it has a little bit extra aspect to it that is able to keep track of the images that we are uploading to Facebook. And so I just have a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet, I don't think it's too special. Let me see if I have it. It's over here. It's called just image links. I've got just a spreadsheet of all the various files that I upload. And what it does is it logs a timestamp of when the image gets uploaded, gives the link, and then when it does upload that image to Facebook, it gives me back the Facebook ID number. That way it has that for further processing. So just be aware, I'll cover that in a second, but there is an extra branch on my kind of standard opening to my agents. So we got our Slack trigger node here. What you do is you set up a Slack bot. If you don't yet have a Slack bot, I'll have a link in the description below on how to do that. But you set up your Slack bot credentials, choose the channel that you want the bot to be listening for, and then make sure to ignore the bot from that channel. So you don't want to be catching responses that the bot gives you in response to your request, because it creates this endless loop of the bot responding to itself. It's not pretty. You got to shut the whole thing down. Not fun. So that's how you set up this trigger node. We have a code node here. Largely, the code node is designed in order to organize some information for us, but also to be able to pull out what I call a session ID number. And this is going to be the memory that the bot has for the thread that we have in Slack to be able to allow it to know what we're talking about iteratively as we're going through the conversation. And so what we're looking for is a session ID that's either our user ID number with a colon and then the word top if we're looking at a post on the top of the thread, or it's going to give us that user ID number, colon, and then the thread timestamp. And so that's if there's additional conversation going on in the thread, it'll be a different session ID. And the reason for that is to be able to pull the memory from our Postgres memory, and I'll cover that in a couple nodes here. But we also get the user ID, the text if we sent a text message, the timestamp, the thread timestamp if there is one. It lets us know if there is a thread as well, and it attaches any file IDs. So all of that comes out of the code node. Here I have a switch. The switch is simply taking that code node. It's checking for if we sent it text. If there's text, and then it's going to go and send it up. If there is an M4A, so an audio file, it'll send it up. Or if there's a JPEG image. Now, I have, and don't worry about the rest because they're not particularly hooked up to this bot. But when I was building this, I found that I think it might have been Instagram. Instagram only allows you to upload JPEG pictures. And so I just kind of transferred that over to the Facebook bot. It's JPEG all the way, man. So if you have your image in PNG, maybe try to convert it first, but this bot is set up for JPEG, and that was because I think it was Instagram that required JPEG pictures. Either way, if it's one of those three, it's going to come up to this switch here, and this switch is looking for if file 0, which would be the first thing you attach, is a picture. Now, I haven't quite noodled out how to get this to easily. I have noodled out how to do it. It's pretty complicated though. To be able to take both a picture and an audio file in your first message to it. So here, just understand for the first iteration, when you send it the picture, you're gonna wanna type out your message to the bot to explain what kind of post-it you wanna make. Keep this in mind as well. The bot is not actually looking at the picture to decide what to make the draft on it. You have to tell it what to make the draft for the post. So just be aware that this version of the bot has to have the image attached with a text message if you want it to be able to process. After that, once you're in the thread and it already has the images, you can then send it audio messages to update it and have it, give you different versions of the draft. But in the first pass through, if you're giving it a picture, you have to send the picture with text. So just be aware of that. If you send a Google Drive link, then you can send it the Drive link and a voice message as well. Just understand with the picture is going to take file slot 0, and it's just the way it is. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to figure it out in a simple fashion, be able to how to show you how to do this with voice and a picture on the first shot. After that, again, voice works. So if you have a picture, it's going to identify the picture. It's going to see it come from the Slack trigger node. And I don't know why it's because it hasn't run in this iteration here. It's going to look at the Slack trigger node. It's going to see that there are files, and it's then going to attach those files as an array. That array is going to come through this code node here. It's going to parse through them and return a map of that array labeled file, pretty much. That list of file URLs with the timestamp that they came in on. So that first message that you sent, here's the timestamp, and here's the download URL, will then be added to a Google Sheets document. And that Google Sheets document then stores that information for you to be able to have that information pulled later when we approve the post. All right, so it sounds a little complicated. I understand it's a little bit different from my kind of standard opening for bots. And we do this to be able to keep track of the images coming through this bot so that we're posting the right one later when we tell it to post. All right, if you send a text message to it, we have a set field here that just labels it as text. That's it, comes right through. And if we have an audio message come through, Again, usually the second pass, or if you're going to include a Google Drive link with an audio message, you can do that. We're just downloading that audio file. We're using our Slack OAuth 2 credentials, so make sure you have that set up as well. And then down here under response format is file, output is binary. So then that comes through this OpenAI transcription node. If you don't yet have OpenAI set up, I will have a link in the description below on how to set up your OpenAI API to be able to run this transcription node. Our resource is set to audio. Operation is transcribe a recording. And our input field is called binary because that's what we were outputting from the previous node. This one's inputting binary. It's then going to transcribe that recording and pass all of that information, so the image and either the text or the audio text, to this merge node. It puts them together, and then it runs it through this code node here. This code node is going to take out the information that it needs to, and it's going to return a single set of output for the text, for the Facebook image IDs, that sort of thing. And so it's going to have all that information, and then it's going to pass it through this edit field node here. This edit field node is going to kind of lock down that information into a place that we can use it from. So our text will be labeled text, our user ID will be labeled user, our timestamp, our thread timestamp if we have one, as well as our session ID that we pulled from the code node. Now, all that information is going to be passed forward, but it's also going to come down here to this if node. I'll zoom in for you. This if node here. This if node is checking for whether the session ID that was pulled out of the code node way back here, this one here, has the term top in it, or the phrase or word top in it. Because again, that signifies a top level message in a thread. If it's a top level message in a thread, there's not going to be any memory saved yet for our conversation history because it's literally the first message we're sending. So it's not going to call the Postgres node that will pull our conversation chain. If that is not top, so if it's part of the thread, then it will come down here and pull this Postgres node. Now, if you don't have Postgres set up, I will have a link in the description below for you. But we have this set to operation of select. Schema is public. Our table is just our chat table that we have for our bot. You know, you'll have whatever table you have. I have a limit of 20. You can have it higher or lower. I'm going to select rows based on the session ID, and I'm going to have that value be equal to what we just pulled and what we had just set. So the one that includes the thread timestamp. All right, if it does not have the thread timestamp, one, it wouldn't even come down here. But two, if it did, then it wouldn't pull anything because that information is not being logged. So it's only going to pull our conversation history if we have it with a thread timestamp. That information, that entire kind of conversation history we've had with the bot, will then come through this code node here. This code node is then going to organize it all chronologically for us. It's going to format everything. It's going to look for as well that Facebook image ID. I also have it set up for LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and all that for my other bots. It's pretty much the same structure that I would use for all of my other bots that do my social media posting. And so here, this one is going to be looking for our Facebook image IDs, because again, this is on the second pass that it's going to be pulling from that conversation history. All right. And the Facebook image ID, after it gets uploaded, is going to be stored at the back of the bot. It's going to be stored, way back here on all these branches. We just haven't gotten there yet. So just understand that it's going to have that information because we do upload the images to Facebook on our first pass. On the next pass, it needs to be able to pull that image ID so that it knows which image to post when we tell it to post it. All right. So then that all gets merged together. That gets passed forward to this one more edit fields node that I call landmark. And it's just kind of a place that I have for the rest of the bot to be able to pull this information from that we just kind of pulled and we have incoming. Just one place for it all. So we're getting our user ID. We're getting our set of previous conversations, and that's all going to be, again, in chronological order. So it's going to be your message, the bot's message, your message, the bot's message. So it understands who said what, essentially. We're also going to give it the previous conversation chain. That information means that if you hook this bot up to another set of like an orchestrator agent that uses this bot as a tool, it will know that it had used the Facebook posting tool as part of its kind of inputs moving forward. All right. We also give it the current user request, the current thing we're asking it to do, our timestamp, our images timestamp. And our images timestamp, again, comes from this code node 3 here that was pulling that from our spreadsheet here. all right? Because when the spreadsheet put the image in, it logs the timestamp, and that timestamp is captured here under our images timestamp. Now, if this is a second pass through, there will not be an images timestamp captured. And the reason for that is because the images timestamp is captured when the image is uploaded. And then once it's done on the next pass, it doesn't upload an image again, so it doesn't have it. So don't worry about that. Instead, on the second pass, there'll be a Facebook images ID that gets stored in the Postgres memory. And then that got pulled back out of the Postgres node, processed through the code node, and it's going to be put here. So it's going to be looking for one of these two to post later. But I had to have both in order to be able to use the bot to process this information on every pass. All right, sounds fun, right? Next, we have this Google Sheets node. We're going to be reading this Google Sheets node, and we're going to be looking for, again, it's this Sheets node that we've uploaded our images to. It's looking for our message timestamp, and it's going to be looking for that based on our thread, our images timestamp ID that we were just referencing, okay? And so we're doing that. We're coming over here to this. It's going to, once it uploads it, it's then going to pull this again. It's going to do that in order to grab this URL to be able to upload it here in a minute. All right, now we have 3 branches. Well, we have several ifs in order to do some logic here to figure out which path this should go on. But we have 3 branches. The first branch is a text-only post. The second branch is when we have a Google Drive link or multiple Google Drive links that we're using to upload our images. So if we're not just attaching it as a file, but we use a link to our Google Drive account, then it'll go through this branch here. Or if we are using image links, as in .jpeg files, then we would do this top branch here. So let's cover our ifs. Our first if is if we have an image timestamp. So that's on our first pass. Or if we have a Facebook _images ID. So if we have one of those two, it will go up, all right? And we come to this next if node. This next if node is looking for whether our current user request, our current message to the bot includes a Google Drive, part of a Google Drive URL. If it contains part of a Google Drive URL, or if the previous conversation contains part of a Google Drive URL, then it will go on the true path. And the true path actually comes back down here, all right? If it's not a Google, so if we had that images ID, or if we had the Facebook images ID, one of the two, it comes up. If it does not also contain a Google Drive link, then it will go up to the top path, which is our images upload. All right, just be aware of that. So it's
provide the full drive link.
No, be quiet, Google. Thank you. All right. If it has an images ID or a Facebook images ID, all right? And so again, the Facebook images ID would be on a second pass. So whichever branch it went through, it would have that Facebook images ID. So if it has it and it has a Google Drive link, and then it comes down to this if node. This if node is again looking for those Google Drive links. If it has one, and then it sends it to our Google Drive path. If it does not have it, or it does not have a Facebook images ID, it does not have a timestamp for an image, it's just text, it would then come down this bottom branch. All right, hopefully you understood all that. Basically, it's able to check whether it's just text, it's able to see if there was ever a Google Drive link included, and it's able to see whether there was ever an images link included, all right? So let's start on the bottom path. It's kind of the simplest path. This one, if you've seen my LinkedIn posting bot, it should look pretty familiar. It's more or less the same structure. In fact, I'll include a link to the LinkedIn posting bot below so you can check that one as well. But what we have here is a text classifier. This text classifier is taking our current user request and our past conversations with the bot. And it's going to check whether it seems that we are asking it to send the post. Are we asking it to post the post? Or are we just asking it to do a draft? So we have some trigger conditions here. Trigger conditions for send are we're giving it clear, explicit instruction to post, publish, schedule, or send a Facebook post. And there is a valid Facebook post draft in the previous conversations that the user is clearly referring to. All right, it will not post unless you explicitly tell it to post and it's part of a conversation chain where there is a Facebook draft post already in the conversation history. All right. And so that's the only time this is going to fire. The draft one is pretty much every other situation it might come across. We're explicitly referencing Facebook. You do want to make sure you're explicitly referencing Facebook. If you don't want that, if you want to make this a little bit more general, you can remove that command there. But I use this as part of a larger agentic system where this is just one tool. And so I need to make sure that I'm referencing Facebook as opposed to Instagram, as opposed to LinkedIn or Twitter or anybody else. So I just included in my bot the instruction that it is looking for the word Facebook, and that we appear to be within an active Facebook drafting conversation. So that it'll have the previous conversation chain saying Facebook. All right, and so this is just kind of a way to just weed out any situation where you might say, hey, this was supposed to be for LinkedIn. And it's just not going to draft it if you did that. All right. If this is supposed to be for Facebook, it better be for Facebook. You need to tell it it's for Facebook. And then the next iteration will tell it was part of a Facebook conversation. And this is about drafting content, not publishing it. So if you say, hey, I want to make a Facebook draft, or I want to post this to Facebook, just make sure you say the word Facebook is all I'm saying. All right, and it's going to have the contextual continuation of its history. It's going to have that previous conversation chain, which will label it as a Facebook message. And our current message is either adding to, refining, somehow changing. It's giving affirmation to a draft update request, essentially. And so the next message through does not have to explicitly say Facebook, is what I'm trying to say here. All right, the first message, you better say Facebook. Everything after that, it can be contextual. It can be part of the living conversation that you have with the agent. All right, it's not going to trigger if a draft message if you it's saying, I want you to post this in a subsequent conversation, all right, in a subsequent message to the bot. It's not going to send it down the draft when you are trying to tell it to actually post. All right, and then what we do is all of that, those are trigger conditions. We also have a system prompt. It's a pretty simple system prompt. It's basically going to look at the user message. It's going to look at any prior conversation history. It's going to look at the previous conversation chain. And then it's going to try to figure out whether you are asking it to finish a draft, to make a new draft, to update a draft, or to send that message. And so we just give it some simple instruction on how to do that, give some examples, some what not to do's. And it's going to pick either draft it down this path, or it's going to post it on this path. If it's going to draft it, we come into this Facebook drafting branch here. And this drafting branch is actually more or less the same as these other ones here. There is a slight variation kind of on the back end, but the drafting part of the bot is the same. All right, it's going to draft it, and then it's going to draft a message back to you with the information and then send it to Slack. How it then uploads the information back into Postgres changes a little bit in these branches, but please understand that the drafting part is going to be the same. So I'm going to blow through those when I get to the other branches. So here we have our write Facebook draft. We're going to give it our current message. We're going to give it our previous conversation history, and we pass it through this system prompt here. It's a ghostwriter. It's no fluff, high impact. And I'm going to suggest that this part be the part that you do spend some time editing for your own version of the bot. This is fully capable. You can run it right now. It's going to write a hook. It wants the first line to hit hard. It needs to deliver concrete value, a provocative taste, or a human moment. It needs to channel confidence, directness, human voice. It's a writer, not an editor. It doesn't critique. It doesn't suggest. Which is not necessarily true. It does edit slightly, but it's only going to come up with one thing. Its task is if there is a link. Let's see. That's interesting because that's not quite what it does. So it's going to derive the idea from. It's going to look at if you give it this one's not particularly relevant. I guess this one is relevant. So if you have another link. Say that you're posting to Facebook and there's another link that you have, this will actually look at the URL and try to figure out what that link might be about to try to help draft something about it. All right, and you should give it some amount of context for what you want this post to be about. It can draft something, but it needs to know that it's supposed to draft something. So do give it some context. And then it's supposed to follow any other instructions that you give it. So if you ask it to change tone or change the format, it's supposed to follow you. If it includes humor, wryness, or self-deprecation, reflect that in the post. Here's the different types of posts that it can do: insights, hot takes, system drops, story punches, human moments, linked takes. So if you include some sort of linked article, if you want to increase or decrease or change the types of posts that it can do, I would come in here and adjust that for yourself. Output rules: the first line is everything. It needs to be a punchline. It has to have strong claim. It needs to pack value or personality into a compelling post. It needs to write in a confident human voice. It needs to be able to understand what to do with links if you have them, and then write like a human who's done this before. So it's not supposed to say like, today I learned. It's supposed to kind of naturally include what the lesson that you learned while talking about your day as a story method, right? Style checklist: it has voice is punchy, decisive, alive. Obviously you change that for yourself. Tone is an operator, clarity mixed with human relatability when prompted. And the goal is deliver insight, provoke reaction, or spark connection. Never just post to post, right? It needs to feel like a human wrote this. Give it some what not to do's. So no writing threads or multi-part posts, no watering down the opening line, no writing a technical blog or copywriter. No repeating our words verbatim. So if we tell it what to write, it's not supposed to just copy that. No adding disclaimers, explanations, unless told to. No generic advice or platitudes. No omitting any links if we give them to it. No using emojis. If you want emojis, you got to tell it to use emojis. You have to change this prompt, all right? I found that when I told it to do emojis, it went kind of hog wild with the emojis, and it was like way too much. And if I tried to limit the number of emojis it did, it just wouldn't do any. So I'm like, okay, I'll just say no emojis, and I'll deal with it later. No breaking character, and no swearing or expletives under any circumstance. Again, if your brand allows for that, you can change it. And then we give it some examples of what to do here, just like that. All right, the draft will then get put through this AI here. The AI is going to get the draft post. It's going to get our current message to the system, as well as our previous conversations that we've had with the bot. And this one is simply going to rewrite everything in a user-facing way so that you can see the post, as well as get some suggestions from the AI of whether it thinks this was a good post. So we're having an AI check the work of an AI for us. All right. So it reviews what we wrote. It is part of our team, and we have the vision, and the copywriting team had just sent over the post. Its job is to deliver it to us with constructive feedback. All right, so its job here: deliver the raw Facebook post draft, frame it, review it, and then make some recommendations. So it's going to open with some style of, announce that this has arrived from the team. It's going to display the draft clearly. It's going to denote it. It's going to set it apart so that this is the draft. It must be clearly delimited so bots or assistants can easily identify it. Format it. It's going to introduce it as the Facebook draft. It's then going to add some dashes so it's clearly set apart, but never use quotes. I found using quotes ends up breaking the rest of the bot, so I just hard code in not to use quotes. And we give it an example here, just like that. All right, and then it follows with some feedback, and it closes with a verdict of whether it thinks it's ready to post or not, or if it needs some additional work to make it sound stronger. All right, it's talking to us directly. It's never making it about the bot. If it thinks that the post is good to go, it should say so, and it shouldn't just always recommend that it be updated. And if it needs to quote anything, it should use single marks or single apostrophe marks or single asterisks, and never ever use quotes, because that ends up breaking the bot. And then what not to do: never edit the post itself, never break character, never. It needs to explain that it shouldn't just go draft. It should go, hey, here's the draft. It needs to let us know. And never omit the delimiters, never include quotes, and don't include quotation marks at all, really, just never. And then we give it the date for some reason. I give my bot the date. It then sends it back to us via Slack. All right, so we're going to send it with our bot credentials. So to send it to the channel that you want the bot to receive it in. A resource is message, operation send, sending it to a channel, and there's the channel. Message type is simple text message. Our message is going to be the output of our previous bot, which is JSON.output. And then we have our reply to message set to the timestamp of our first message that we sent. And that's what creates the thread here that we got. It creates that thread by sending this message to that timestamp that we had. All right. That then gets thrown through this edit fields node, where we're going to log our session ID with our user ID, colon, and then the thread timestamp of the message we just sent from the bot to ourselves. And so that will be the session ID that we're tracking all of our conversation history with from now on. And then when we do another pass, that's what's pulling out of memory using this session ID. All right, we're going to attach our text as text. We have a user called user, and here's our previous conversation chain. We're going to set to Facebook, and we're going to add the time that this was added as now, as in right now. All right, that then gets sent through this Postgres node that's going to upload our human message to our memory. So attach your Postgres credentials. Operation is insert. Schema is public. Our table is just whatever table that you have for your chat for your bot. Session ID is just going to be that JSON.session_ID from our set field node we just did. And here for our message, what we're doing is type is going to be human. Data is going to be the message that we sent in the first place. Okay, the original message that we sent in this iteration, this execution, followed by these dot replaces. That's going to strip out any extra marks that might break the upload into Postgres. So if there's extra curly braces or quotation marks or anything like that, that breaks it. So we had to pull that out using these dot replaces. And then we use a time added as now so that it's aware of when this message is. So when that one code node I mentioned way back before is putting everything in chronological order, it knows that this one comes before the next one. All right, and the next one, this is this Postgres node here. It's going to be the bot message. So up first we upload the human message, and then we do the bot message. So get your Postgres credentials set up. Operation is insert, schema is public, table is the same chat table we have for our bot. Session ID is that same JSON.session_ID. That way it's all logged under the same number, right? Our message is going to be type bot, so that it knows that this is the bot responding. Data is going to have content, and here's the message from the bot that was sent in this Slack message here, all right? And so for each of these branches, it's going to be, the bot's going to be logging the message that the bot sends in the Slack message. All right. So we're going to do that. We have the same dot replaces in order to strip out any extra offending marks. We add our time added. We add who it's responding to using our user ID. And then we give it the previous conversation chain of Facebook. And I hard coded that in. So because this is the Facebook bot. All right. Now, what happens is after it drafts it, when we say, hey, can you edit it again? It's actually going to go through that same process right there until the draft is done. Oops. Oh, gosh, I accidentally unhooked it. Okay, we're good. That was funny. If we say, go ahead and post it, this text classifier is going to catch that framing that go, okay, now it's time to post. It's then going to come up this top path. So we're going to cover the top path. And the top path is somewhat the same on all the rest. There's a little bit of difference on how it handles the images, but pretty much the same. So it's going to pull out our draft. It's going to frame the draft. And then when after it's posted, it's then going to run it through that kind of same process that I just explained, where it drafts a message to us, it sends it to us by Slack, sets the information, and then uploads it to memory. So you'll see all these other bots kind of have the same thing here. It drafts the message to us, it sends it, sets the fields, and then sends it to us. And same up here. So it drafts it, and then it sends it to us, sets the field, and then this one uploads, and then it does one other step because it is an image that was logged in a spreadsheet. So I will cover that when I get here. And I know there's a lot going on. I understand. Please just try to follow with me. I'm trying to go nice and slow for you so you understand each aspect of this. I just don't want to have to repeat myself over and over again. All right. So when we tell it to post and it has a valid draft, it's going to come to this AI agent here. It's going to get our current message. It's going to get our past and previous conversation chain. It's going to come through this system prompt, which is a relay bot. Zero thought, zero opinion. It's meant just to retrieve the post from the conversation history and present it as the post. And that's all it's doing here. So it scans the conversation history for the most recent fully written Facebook post. It returns the post text only, no commentary or analysis or headers, preserving the formatting and line breaks. And then it must produce an exact copy of that finalized Facebook text. No extra no extra anything else with it, just the text. And it needs to be immediately ready to be sent to Facebook via an automation tool, all right? And text only, no emojis or symbolic characters. I also found that the emojis didn't process through for some reason. That could be another reason why I said no emojis. But we're gonna do just that's it. That's all it does. Everything else is just kind of extra instruction. What not to do, no adding extra text, no paraphrasing, summarizing, or rephrasing, no extra system messages, no removing line breaks if they're supposed to be there, no guessing or selecting between objects. It's supposed to return only the last complete post, no emojis or hashtags or symbolic characters, no trying to fix anything it thinks is broken. Just get me the post. That's it. All right, that's what it does. It's then going to send it to Facebook using our Facebook Graph API credentials. If you do not yet have your Facebook Graph credentials, I have a link in the description below on how to set that up. It is a big old pain trying to figure it out. That video, it will help you so much. In fact, I'm glad I made it because I'm going to have to go back and check it out anytime I have to make a new bot because Meta is a pain in the butt to set up. I figured it out for you. Go ahead and watch that video. What we're going to do, host URL is going to be default. HTTP request mode is going to be post. I'm using version 22.0 as our API, and 23 is out. But if I click here, there's no 23 here. So it's N8N has not yet updated to allow version 23. I might be able to write it in there, but I'm just using 22 because that's how the system is using it. That's what I set it up with originally. It works just as well. So that's what it is. Our node is going to be the word me, M-E, right? Because we're going to be posting to our page. Edge is feed, and so that's where we're posting it, into the feed. Our query parameters is name of message, so that's going to be what's being posted. And our value is going to be that JSON.output, which is the output from the previous AI agent, which got me my draft, right? So the final version of the draft, it uploads it to Facebook, it posts it to Facebook, and that's it. The text post is done at that point. It's then going to send us a confirmation. This confirmation is going to look at the Facebook post. It's going to, if it gets here, it means it worked. And so it's going to see the Facebook post, and then it's going to let us know that it got the post, and then it's been posted on our behalf. All right, so it's going to deliver the report, let the user know the Facebook post is live and in action, and frame it like this outcome was never in doubt. It needs to sound like, yep, this was meant to be. When responding, open with style, and then confirm the action that the post is published, and keep it brief, clear, and confident. So it's not going to make something long. So if I come down here, it's a nice little quick post. Your post is live and shining with clarity and confidence. All right, wonderful. And so don't break character, never mention or reference any other drafts, no reporting without style or energy, and no offering critiques or feedback. It just lets me know it posted it. It then sends it to me by Slack. So again, same bot credentials, same channel. The message timestamp is our message timestamp that gets us into the thread. We then set the same fields that we did. So we have our session ID, text, user, previous conversation chain, and time added. That then gets put into these Postgres nodes. Same setup for the Postgres nodes. We're sending the human message. It's being pulled from our landmark edit field node that was way back there with our time added. So again, like I said, I'm just going to kind of hustle through these because I've already explained how this section works. This one does the bot. So same, you want to make sure it's in the same bot channel, or the channel for your not channel, the chat table for your bot, session ID. And then here we have the bot message being sent from that Slack node that just sent us this message. We include our time added. Responding to is our user ID. Previous conversation chain is Facebook. All right, and that's how you do the text-only posts. If the message included a Google Drive link, or if the previous conversations has included a Google Drive link. So in that thread, anywhere, if there was a Google Drive link, it's going to come down this path here, this red section. This red section is going to first have this if node. It's going to be looking for if the current message includes a Google Drive link. If it does, then it's going to go through the process of downloading the image through this process, or images, because you can send multiple pictures with Google Drive links. You'd have to have multiple links is what I'm saying. It's going to go through this process down here. If it's on the second pass or more, where you've already sent it to the link, it's not in the current message, it's then just going to go through this process here, where it's going to either update your draft, or it's going to go through the process of posting, just like we had down here. All right, so this is kind of the the fun part of this, let's get into it. If there is a Google Drive link present at all, if it sees that phrase of drive.google.com/file, it's going to come through this code node here. This code node is going to go and look at your message. It's going to pull out any of those file links, those Google Drive file links. It's going to pull all of them. All right, and it's going to output them in an array called unique links, with each item being a Drive link. It's then going to loop through each of those Drive links that it was able to find. It's going to download it from Google Drive. So you have to have your Google Drive credentials set up. If you don't yet have that set up, I will have a link in the description below on how to do that. Resource is file. Operation is download. Our file URL is going to be the Drive link that the code node was able to pull out. And we're going to output it as a binary. That binary is going to come through this edit image node, which is going to reduce the size of the image by 50%. And that's just so we don't waste extra tokens by having to upload huge images to, well, actually in this case, we want to make sure that the image isn't so big that it's not uploaded to Facebook correctly. So we reduce the size of the image. It doesn't have to be super high def, but it's about 50% is good. Then that image is going to be uploaded into Facebook's Graph API. All right, so what we're doing here is host URL is default, HTTP request is post, version 22. You need to make sure that you have your page number. Your page number comes from setting up your Graph API. All right, and I have that all explained in the video on how to set up the Graph API. The link is in the description below. All right, it's not particularly easy to get to, and I walk you through how to get this number to be able to put in here. Our edge is going to be photos. We're going to send a binary file, so our input is going to be called binary. We're going to have query parameters with named of published. We're going to set this to false, meaning we're not just uploading a photo and that's all. We're going to upload the photo into the system, and it's going to stay there for a minute while we go through the process of drafting our post, and then when it's done, we'll attach them together for the final post. All right, that gets looped through all of our Drive links. Once all the Drive links come through, they get aggregated together and then sent through this code node. And this code node, what it's looking for is it's looking for the Facebook IDs of the images that got uploaded to Facebook. It's then going to put all of those IDs into an array for us. All right, whether it's one or many, it's going to give us an array of Facebook media IDs. All right, at that point, either we've uploaded all our images, or we've come through and we've asked for an edit request, or even a post request, right? So long as, regardless of how we did it, we've either finished uploading or we're now moving forward in the process. What's going to happen is it's going to go through the same check of whether this is a send request, or are we asking it to post, or is it going to go and do a draft or do an update to a draft. So if it's the first time you're messaging it, it's not going to send it to post because it doesn't have a complete draft yet to be able to operate off of. So if you say, hey, I want to make a Facebook post about this, it's always going to go down the draft path first. And again, the draft path was the same as the one down here. It's going to make that Facebook post. It gets our current message. It gets our past conversations with it. And do note, it's not getting the image. It's not getting a description of the image at all. So you either are going to have to give it a description of the image or just tell it what to write and then just have that picture hanging out there. That's pretty much what I do, is I just tell it to make a post and here's an image that kind of goes with it versus trying to explain exactly what's going on in the image. It's more of a show rather than tell kind of thing. All right, so it's Facebook Ghostwriter. It's going to read our instructions. It's going to write a single post, powerful hook. It's going to share a powerful personal moment or react in a confident human voice. Again, it's the same exact posting instructions as this other one down here for the text. This one up here for the images, it's the same as well. I think there's just some slight extra instruction in here that it's not, even though the user is possibly said, hey, I have a picture here about, the bot is not describing the image. So it's here, I'm saying it's getting the full URL exactly as given, but only once per post. Oh, that's if you give it extra links that you want to post as well. Where I think I include something about the image, match the user's intent, write with conviction. If you give it a URL, include the URL. Ignore image format. No describing the image. Do not reference what's in the image. All right, so if you give it an image, it's not supposed to say, in this image, it's supposed to be like a real post, right? A real human post. So it's got that set of instructions, but otherwise it's the same drafting agent that we had below. Once it makes its draft, it's gonna send us the draft post in the same style as the text post down here. So it's going to say, here's your draft post. Here's the Facebook post. It gives it to you. It's set aside. It's going to be some suggestions on whether it thinks it's a good post or what could be improved on it, and whether it thinks it should be posted. That then gets sent to us via Slack again. So again, we've got our bot credentials in here. Message operation sent into a channel using our bots. Message out. The message text is the output of the AI agent that just wrote the message to us. It's going to send it to that timestamp, so that puts it into the thread. We then edit some information here in our edit field node, session ID, text, user, previous conversation chain, and time added, all the same as we've seen before. The only thing that's a little different here, and I'm going to zoom out just a bit so I can grab and move around, is you'll notice this is a little different than the set down here. So the reason for this is what we do is we're going to upload the human message. So that gets uploaded, and that's because it's already set. We've already messaged the bot. That was 10 seconds ago, we already messaged the bot. So it's going to upload it just as it did before. Dot replaces as before, removing any extra offending marks into our chat table. Session ID is being logged, so that's what we're pulling off of. What then is going to happen is we need to figure out how to make sure that we have the right number that's going to be placed with the bot message, so that when it comes back through, it's able to pull out our Facebook images ID so that it knows what video or what image to post when we tell it to post. All right, because that number has not yet been logged anywhere but a spreadsheet. We need to make sure that the agent is able to get that number so that it's able to post it. So we have this if here. This if is looking for whether the value of Facebook image IDs has been created yet in our spreadsheet. All right, and actually not our spreadsheet, in the Postgres memory, because it's going to put it into the Postgres memory here in a moment. If it has made it, then it's going to come up this top branch. This top branch is simply going to pull out the Facebook images ID one more time so that it can be put into the Postgres history one more time, so that this images ID is passed forward each time the bot continues the conversation, so that it knows very clearly what images are supposed to be included in this post. All right. If the Facebook images ID value has not yet been created, it's then going to come down this bottom branch, which is going to label Facebook images ID as the media ID number that was input into this spreadsheet here, which I'm fairly certain is based on, I think it's this number here, this Facebook ID number. Media IDs from code 1. I'll double check really quick. Yes, it is this from this code node here. After it uploads them to Facebook, it pulls out and has that array of media IDs. It's going to set those as the Facebook image IDs, and it's going to set it as a string. Whichever branch it comes through and however many different numbers it has, it's going to aggregate that together into one path and then send it to Postgres. And here we have kind of the same upload that we've had before. So insert is operations insert, schema is public, the table is our chat table. Our session ID is going to be our session ID from this update Postgres node that we set as our user ID, thread timestamp. So it's going to set that session ID so that's the same as all the rest of the memory is supposed to be. We then send a message with bot as the type. Our content is our message that it sent to us via Slack with those dot replaces. Add our time added, responding to is our user ID. And then we also give it our images, our Facebook images IDs. And this is so that when the bot comes back through the next time, that code node is able to pull it out of our previous conversation history and have these IDs ready to post now. All right, and then our previous conversation chain is Facebook. That's what happens when you're drafting or updating a draft with a Google Drive link. If you have told it to go ahead and post, this text classifier is going to send it on the send path up here. And this one it's pretty much the same as this path was down here. So it's going to pull out our post from our previous conversation history. And that's all this does. It's the same exact prompt, same inputs. So our current message, our past conversations, and then this is the relay bot, zero thought, zero opinion. It's pulling out the post from our last conversation history. So the last thing we just said to the bot, and the last version it gave us, and it's going to pass that forward into this process here, okay? And this process here is a little bit different from just posting to the Facebook node. I'll zoom in a little bit. So what it's going to do is have an edit fields node where we're going to label our Facebook post as the output from that AI agent that gave us our final draft. And then we're going to set a field called media IDs based on these Facebook media IDs that came from this code node over here. All right, and so we actually, from this landmark is where we have it, but we're pulling it and we're just kind of bringing them forward into this edit field node that way they can go into this code node here to be able to be processed so that our media IDs are mapped and called media underscore BID. I think that's what it needs to be called, to be put into this Facebook node here to be able to post. All right, so again, the setup is the same. Here's our node. Our feed in this case is, our edge in this case is feed because we're posting it into the feed for our page. Our parameters are attached media is going to be our JSON.media. So that's going to be our media IDs that we have set in that edit field node. And our message is, well, actually it's being pulled from the code node, and the code node is structuring it the exact way that Facebook needs it. And that's why I have that code node. It's to be able to structure these media IDs the way that Facebook is expecting to see them. And if you just try to like JSON it or JSON dot, Facebook media IDs like from this edit field node, like this, the post itself is, it's going to add extra quotation marks, or it might add extra arrays, or it might add all kinds of extra stuff. I had to figure out how to fix this for us to be able to use. And so it's just JSON.media from that code node, whereas our message is being pulled from the edit fields node. And I'm doing a dot first to get through the code node just in case. And then JSON.Facebook post. So we're uploading the post with the images, one or more, to our Facebook page, and then it'll post it. And those images are being pulled again from a Google Drive link, which I think is really cool. It is then going to send us that same confirmation that it did down here. It's just going to let us know that our Facebook post is active. So give it the Facebook post, as well as the instructions on how to respond to us. So, speak directly to the user, stay personal and professional, never make it about yourself, open with style, confirm the action. Same thing that we saw before. All right. It then sends it to us via Slack. All right. So bot credentials, resources, a message, operation is send. Sending to channel, the bot channel that you're having the conversation in. Message type is simple text message. Our message is the output of the AI agent that just wrote our response. And then the message that we're responding to is that time-stamped message we keep calling, right? We then have our edit field node that kind of locks more information down again. I'll go ahead and show you. Session ID, text, user, previous conversation chain, and time added. It then comes through this Postgres node. Postgres node is the same that one we've seen before for the human uploads. You have your table for your bot based on the session ID. We are then sending it the same message. So type is human, data, content is the message that we are sending it in this execution with these dot replaces, and then the time added. And then we have the other Postgres node to send the bot message. You'll notice that it doesn't have this weird kind of branching here, and it's because we don't need to store the Facebook image IDs at this point. We've already posted it. There's no point to log it again, but we do want the log of the fact that it has posted, and so that's why we're uploading the bot's message to us that it has posted it. We give it the timestamp that it posted it, responding to with our user ID. Previous conversation chain is Facebook. All right, and that is what happens if you have a Google Drive link. Now, it is almost identical. In fact, I think it is identical, the process of the drafting and posting when we have images with like a .jpeg, just a file that we've attached. The only difference is going to be this section here, and I'll zoom in. Maybe I'll zoom in. Yeah, this section here where we're actually uploading the images. And you'll see it's almost the same, right? So we have our edit image node, we have our edit image node, we have our Facebook node, our Facebook node. Here we have a couple extra nodes, but this one is really taking the place of the Google Drive node. So if the image either has a message timestamp, meaning it's first passed through because you've attached an image, or it has a Facebook images ID, meaning it's already been through a drafting process, and it does not include a Google Drive link in the message, it will come up this top branch here. And this top branch, let's go ahead and make this maybe a little smaller so we can see the whole thing. It's going to go through this process here. We have an if node. The if node is looking to see whether message timestamp exists. All right, so message timestamp is this number that gets put in the spreadsheet the first time the image is uploaded into this process. So the very first message with the image will have a message timestamp. Anytime after that will not. All right, if it does not, it will continue on the process of drafting or posting depending on what you tell it to. If it does have that message timestamp, it's then going to go through the process of uploading the images into Google Drive. Or no, I'm sorry. It's going to go and upload the images into Facebook. My apologies on that one. All right, so we have a loop because you can have multiple images. You should be able to do multiple images. Actually, I don't know if, this should be set up. This is set up because of this code node to be able to handle multiple images. And so it will put multiple images into the post, into your spreadsheet, and each one will be its own item. So it'll have different lines. And then what will happen is it's going to generate it's going to have the same message timestamp. All right. So each image will have the same timestamp, and they will come through one at a time. Each of them gets downloaded as a binary file. So we're just doing a get with our JSON of file URL. And file URL is being pulled from this edit fields node here, but it's actually being pulled from the Slack trigger node originally, because that URL is being put into the cell here in the spreadsheet. So this is our file that we would be downloading from Slack. All right, so we come back over here to this node. We have to have our Slack credentials connected, our OAuth 2 credentials, to be able to download the file back from Slack. And then we download it as a file with a name of binary. All right, that then gets run through this edit image node, which reduces the size by 50%. And that's so we're able to upload it to Facebook with no issues. We have the same upload process here. We have your page ID number. The edge is photos. And then we have this set to published as false. And our input binary field is going to be called binary. It then runs that through, then it's going to take the sheet, the Google Sheet over here. It's then going to match the one that it just uploaded to the file, the Facebook media ID that it's given. And it's going to put that information into the spreadsheet so that it's logged in the spreadsheet as well. All right. So that way you're able to go back and for your records have that information. So it's going to match it based on the file URL that it's uploading, and it's going to put in the media ID into the spreadsheet. And that also allows this information to be passed out of the loop when it's done, to be able to go through this code node to be able to process those media IDs moving forward. So once it loops through everything, it then aggregates however many iterations it does through into one item that then get passed through this code node. This code node is looking for those media IDs, and it's going to output an array of those media IDs for us. All right. Then it's then going to draft our post for us, or if you ask it to update a draft, it's then going to go through that same process. It's going to write our draft post for us. It's then going to send us the draft. It's then going to send us that message via Slack, set that information into our edit field node, so our session ID, text, user, previous conversation chain, time added, and then we also have this one here for images timestamp, and that's because the images timestamp was being pulled way back from this edit field node, which was pulling it from this Google Sheets node, really, when it was uploaded into the Google Sheet. And so what it's doing is it's going to set that here so that when we get to this if node, it's able to see whether or not this was a first pass or not. Postgres node. The Postgres node is going to upload our human message to it. It's again, that's just our current message that we're sending to the bot with these dot replaces and our timestamp. We then run through that same process I covered here in the Google Drive section down here with an if. The if is looking for whether Facebook image IDs exists, whether this is a second pass or not, or more. If it does, which was this does exist. If it does exist, it goes through the top path, which is just going to set those Facebook images IDs once more in this edit field node. If not, it's then going to set the media IDs that got pulled from the code node that is after that, the loop node at where everything's uploaded. And it's going to set those as Facebook image IDs. Those are then going to be sent through this aggregate node, which is just going to pass everything forward into the Postgres node here, which is going to send it to our chat memory based on the session ID number. So it's all, again, set together under one number. We're setting the bot message, the message it sent to us via Slack, and we include the timestamp that it sends it, the person that it's responding to with their user ID, the Facebook image ID numbers, as well as the previous conversation chain of Facebook. All right, last branch, and it's pretty much the same as what we saw down here. There's just one small little change at the end. If we tell it to post after we've sent it images, it's going to pull out using the same agent, same system prompt. So I'm not going to go through that again. It's going to pull out that information from our last draft that we approved of. It's going to set the information here with this edit field node. So it's going to set our Facebook post as that output the AI agent just did. And it's going to grab our media IDs from the Facebook image IDs number that is included in the Postgres memory that was pulled out from the bot's last message to us. All right, it's going to get to those numbers. It's going to run it through this code node that's going to organize those the media ID numbers in the right way that Facebook needs. And then it's going to upload all of that into Facebook. So again, get your page ID number. And again, these credentials, watch the video I have in the link below. Like it's kind of complicated. It was a pain in the butt to figure out myself. It took me hours and hours and hours to do it myself. The video will show you exactly how to do it. Query parameters are attached _ media. We're attaching our media IDs. And then the message that we're sending is just called message. And then that's the Facebook post. All right, and that's going to post to our feed. And that's going to be a post onto our page. It's then going to send us a confirmation message again. We've seen that system prompt before. It's going to send it to us via Slack into the bot channel that it's responding to. Our edit field node grabs all that information again, session ID, text, user, previous conversation chain, and time added. It's then going to upload our human message one more time. So it's this human message, like in case you are like, why would I have this on this pass? It's going to be something like, go ahead and post it. But I want that as part of the conversation chain. I want every message I sent between me and the bot to be logged. So I log that human message as well. And then we log the bot message that's sent to us via Slack, as well as our user ID and the previous conversation chain. And then we have two last nodes right here. We have a read Google Sheet. So it's going to look at the Google Sheet one last time, looking at all of the images with a filter of the images timestamp that was pulled out on the very first pass. Okay? And then it's going to go ahead and it's going to come in here and it's going to update it with a timestamp for when it was posted. So when these things get posted to Facebook, it's going to go ahead and log it into the sheet, or at least it's supposed to when you attach an image. In this case, it didn't. I wonder if I errored out. I'll have to double check and I'll fix it for you guys if it makes sense. All right, so that is the Facebook posting bot. It was kind of a beast to have to explain. There's so much going on here. You can add additional bells and whistles. You can add features to be able to send video. I actually just did that for my personal bot yesterday. It didn't make the cut for this video. But if you join our advanced community, I'm more than happy to go through it and show you how to be able to have it post videos and reels as well. And yeah, this is a really cool bot that'll let you do pretty much anything you want with Facebook. So if you found this video helpful, Please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like and share the video. It really does help get this information out there to those who need it. And if you want today's copy of the workflow, simply go down to my school community. The link's in the description below. Absolutely free. You can download this there right now. You can get your copy. You can make adjustments to it. You can do whatever you want. I got a ton of other additional workflows available for free in there. I got other social media posting bots, executive assistants, lead scrapers, all kinds of nifty tools, all absolutely for free in my school community. As always, I'm Bradford Carlton. Let's automate your success together.